In our video today, we're going to continue in the series about ideal life and how you can go about actually creating, manifesting, and living what I have described as an ideal life. A life that is really engaging and really enjoyable, and of course is challenging at times, but is rewarding and is meaningful. And in our initial video where we talked about what is an ideal life, I provided an acronym that I think is a good guide. It's 5 letters that spell out DECAL, D-E-C-A-L, which stand for 5 of the aspects or principles which I think are necessary in order for you to move in this direction, to begin to live and breathe and manifest the ideal life. So as a quick recap, D is for desire, and that means you are engaged in that which you want. You have an idea, you have a vision, you have strong passion for something. E is for engagement, that from the point at which you decide what you want to the manifestation of it is going to require effort. It's going to require patience. It's going to require flexibility. It's going to require persistence. Whatever the determining factors are, depending on what you want. It's very helpful to engage in the process, to emotionally commit to it, to really be into it, basically. You know that expression, man, I'm just so into it, or I'm so into her, or she's so into me, or she's so into that guy. It's an expression in our culture that means I'm engaged in it, I'm immersed in it. And that engagement is really important. If you can't find that engagement, it's going to be very challenging to manifest the ideal life. Because in everybody's journey to have the things they want, challenges come up. Resistance hits you in the face. People don't act the way you would like them to. People don't move as quickly. People don't see your capability. People don't trust you the way that you wish they would. So we're going to have to engage in the process so that if and when it gets difficult, we persist. The C is for creativity. An ideal life allows you to be creative. In fact, from my perspective, it's an imperative. It's very difficult for me to engage in something if there isn't room for me to be creative. And that's not just being artistically creative. That can be nice. But I mean just creating a vision, creating a business, creating a tone of a conversation, creating a meeting plan, creating, I mean, you name it. Creativity is all over the board. I mean, every morning you wake up, you have the opportunity to create your day, meaning how are you going to move through the day? What kind of attitude are you going to bring with you? Are you going to indulge in sweets and caffeine and eat too much and just kind of blob out? Or are you going to do stuff that's meaningful to you, that's engaging? So C is for creativity. A is for action. And action is really paramount. Things will happen as you take action. And there becomes a momentum behind your activity when you don't stop and analyze and criticize and get frustrated and get impatient just because it's difficult. You continue to move forward, you continue to show up, you continue to send out emails, you continue to follow up with phone calls, you continue to write things and communicate things, and you believe in the power of your desire. So you continually take action, and you don't allow the difficulties that typically arise to slow you down and shut you down. And finally, L is for love, and that means that you really want this thing to happen. I mean, let's say you're single and you really want to be in a romantic relationship and something that can last and lead to marriage, and you want to have children with this person. And the idea of it just fills you with great inspiration, and you just pour your love into it. And what does that mean? That means you make an effort that is your entire being. You give everything so that you make yourself as attractive as possible, and you accept dates, and you remain flexible, and when you go out on dates, you really make an effort to connect with the person and listen to the person and present yourself as a very attractive person. And you will find that when you pour love into things, that the world kind of sparkles around you. That energy has an effect on people. In contrast, let's say you sort of are a bit pessimistic and you're not sure that a romantic relationship is ever going to happen for you, and over the last 10 years, 15 years, you've gained 15 pounds and you kind of don't put the effort in you used to your clothing and your makeup or whatever it is that you do to make yourself attractive. And you're just sort of like making a half-hearted effort. People will sense that. People will pick up on that. And the fact that your love is not fully invested in what you're doing, you're not giving everything that you can to that which you want, your results will reflect that. Same thing can be true of business. You may have an idea, but let's say you've had 3 failed business attempts and you're just going to go, well, I'll give it a try. I don't know. I mean, nothing ever works out. And there's no love in that. Love is vulnerable. And that means you go for it. And I give a couple of examples, business and relationships. But it can be anything from making a meal. And you know that your girlfriend's coming over and you want to make a meal that just, sings with just great tastes and creative and cool and has all the food she likes in it. And you prepare and you buy the best ingredients and you give yourself a good couple of hours to devote to making this food, and you time it all right, and she shows up and the house smells great, and that love really has a beautiful effect on our lives. So those are the aspects of pursuing and manifesting an ideal life. Now today I want to discuss the idea right from step 1, when you have a desire, when you have something that you want, how do we get started? And this brings us to the concept and the teaching of visualization, sometimes referred to as creative visualization, guided visualization. And what you are doing in visualization is you are using this very unique aspect that we all have, a mind, and we are creating an image, a movie, a soundtrack, an essential vision of the end result of that which we are seeking. Now, in some people's teaching of this, including the movie and the book called The Secret, there is an aspect that I want to address, and that has to do with creating reality. Now, if we believe that we had the power to create reality, then there is a strong potential to be, quite frustrated and disappointed, because we have a rational and reasoning function. So let's say, for example, we're in the middle of the winter and we live in a cold city, and we have this idea that, well, we can create reality, and so I'm going to visualize it to be 75 and humid and just so super nice, and yeah, it's the middle of February, but hey man, I'm going to create reality. Nobody is going to say that's possible. Now, I always like to, present the caveat that I don't know if things like that are possible. If you can actually develop your spiritual ability to a point where, you can affect things at that level. I don't think it's all that practical. I think let's focus on what it is that I can influence in my day-to-day life in order that I would have the ideal life. Changing the weather, yeah, if you want to go on TV and be some kind of a superstar, I suppose you could work on that. But I suspect you'll be working on it for quite some time. But the point is, as a reasoning individual, you probably go, well, to what degree do I actually create reality? If my car is broken down, can I just sit there and visualize my car repaired, and then by some mysterious force I go out, turn my car over, and whatever the problem was is fixed? No, that's not how it works. How it works is I visualize my car repaired, and then I drive to the auto repair business and I explain my situation, and they fix it, and I pay them, and then it's fixed. So my vision is realized, but it wasn't that I created some mysterious, magical, and unexplainable phenomenon. So hopefully that's relatively obvious, that we don't create these fantasy, magical experiences. But what we do is we take responsibility that a human being, through the focused intent and the use of mind to create the image or to create the soundtrack, there is a mysterious element that cannot really be explained. And that element is the power of creation. Well, if we don't create reality, what exactly are we creating? I'm not sure the wording that I use is perfect, but let me say this. When you have an intent, and that intent is fueled by a strong desire, and you are committed to following that through, first visualizing it on the mental realm, then beginning to speak about it. So whether you speak about it to yourself or you speak about it to other people, you are speaking it into manifestation. And this is the power of the word. What's an example of that? Well, I might say, let's say I have decided, and this happened for me recently, I decided I was going to move from Chicago to another city. And I wasn't sure at the time what the new city was. However, I knew the aspects of the new city that I wanted. And one of them, as you can imagine, was weather. I wanted much warmer weather. And there was a few other things. I wanted to live on the Atlantic Ocean coast. And let's just stop with those details. I want warm weather on the Atlantic coast. So obviously I needed to be in the southern part of the United States. I was able to visualize myself living, I don't know what the city was, but living in that climate and going to the beach and swimming in the ocean and just feeling incredible joy and relief, because I love living by the ocean. And I love really hot, humid weather. You know, not everybody likes the humidity, but I just really love it. You know, a little personal note, I feel like it's God giving me this great warm hug. I step outside and the air is heavy and I just feel loved. So that's me. I was able to visualize myself that. I didn't know what the city was. Now, when I began to speak about it, I did not speak about it in a nervous and worried way, like, well, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to move, but I mean, I don't know. How's that going to work? Because, you know, I don't even know what city, and I don't know anybody on the East Coast. I don't use the word in that way because that is a detractor from the actual vision. Instead, my wording would be, this is going to happen. You know, I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to go and explore a few cities, and I'm going to see where I feel drawn, and then I suspect that I will feel drawn to a particular area, and I'll do some research, and then, you know, a few weeks later, I'll pack up my stuff and I'll go. And that's sort of what happened. I mean, I had a house to sell, so there was other aspects. I had to sell the house and close down a business. And, you know, there were many steps along the way, but the point is, the vision was clear in my mind. This was going to happen, and I had to go about speaking it into reality. And of course, there were many friends I had, still have in Chicago, and I wanted to communicate to them in a way that was considerate and also excited and enthusiastic. And I spoke about it in a way that was pushing the vision forward. Following the speaking of it, and concurrently with speaking of it, I took action. And I began the process of preparing my life to close down in Chicago and start up again somewhere else. Going back to the original theme of this particular video, I did not create a new city where the weather was warm and it was by the ocean and there was all these other factors. I did not create a city. I knew that a city existed that would meet the requirements for me to live happily and to be excited about starting a new chapter of my life. You could say that I created my destiny. I decided on my destiny and then I went about making it happen through exerting effort. And this is really an important distinction because if you believe that you create reality and you don't respect the existing reality, you probably will be very disappointed because you have to learn to work within the parameters of existing reality. You have to learn how to deal with people who have their own version of what they want to happen. You know, take for example, I was trying to consider with this idea of moving from Chicago into, and by the way, I ended up in Charleston, South Carolina. Moving from Chicago to Charleston. Well, there are a few ways to get your stuff there, right? The easiest way is You basically hire a moving company, they show up at your house or your storage unit, they pack everything in the truck, and then however many days later they arrive at your new location and they unpack it all into your house. When you're doing long distance moving, that's the most expensive route. They basically show up, you tell them what goes, and then 5 days later or 10 days later you see them again at your new place and they unpack it all into your house. Another way to do it, which is sort of a compromised version of that, is they drop a crate at your house or at your storage unit or a cube or whatever it's called, and you load up the cube and then seal it up, and then they come with a truck and they forklift that onto their truck, and then you say goodbye to your stuff, and 5 days later or 10 days later or whatever it is, they either drop it at your house or they drop it at a designated location, at which point you come with a local truck and you put all your stuff in the local truck and you drive it to your place. That's option number 2. Option number 3, you rent a truck, you drive up to your house or your storage unit, you and your friends load the truck, you drive the distance, unload the truck, drop off the truck at some designated location known as a one-way truck rental. And that tends to be the least expensive option. Most labor, most amount of planning, the tediousness of having to do the drive yourself, however, saving money. So what's my point? Well, my point is you're going to have choices along the way, but you're not going to make up a brand new choice. Like, for example, I sit there and I visualize all my stuff teleporting to my new house and perfectly set up in my new house with my kitchen table here and all my dishes put away and my TV and cable already hooked up. No, I mean, come on, that's ridiculous, right? You're not going to create some kind of fantasy reality. Now, that's an extreme example, but wouldn't it be great, right? Wouldn't it be great if just through the power of mind you could move physical items to that degree? Yeah, that would be cool. But that's not how reality works, at least not at the current level of human evolution. So, we have to work within the parameters of reality. Now, some people will tell you, oh yeah, I hired movers, and oh my God, you know movers, they always overcharge you, and they always show up late, and the guys are always half drunk, and they don't care about your stuff, and half the stuff gets damaged, and then they don't have proper insurance and all that. Now, do people have experiences like that? Sure. Have I ever had an experience like that? No. The reason I believe I don't have experiences like that is because there's 2 reasons. Number 1 is because I don't speak that into reality, and I don't recommend that you speak it into reality. Are there moving companies who are like that? Absolutely. There's all sorts of business practices that are not very considerate and not very conscious, and they don't really care that much. And how are they able to survive? Well, the sad truth is that because so many people believe that's how these services work, to a certain degree, those people believing that's what the service is, pay for that service, have that crappy experience, and everybody kind of continues on. I don't teach that, and I don't want you to think that way. I want you to go, my moving experience is going to be very positive. I am going to do my due diligence, and I'm going to read the reviews online, and I'm going to call 3 or 4 moving companies. I'm going to ask them all to come out and survey my stuff. And I'm going to talk, for 15 to 20 minutes with each company, each rep, and go, here are my questions. And how's this work? And what's your insurance? And I want a copy of your insurance. And what is the likelihood that stuff will be damaged? And how long will it actually take from the moment you get here till the moment my stuff unloads? And you approach this with engagement. Like you care deeply. And you will find, because your love is poured into it, that the truth will be revealed. And you will likely discover 1 or maybe 2 of these companies emerge as the company that is going to do a good job and is not going to damage your stuff. And you will essentially create that relationship. Because if somebody doesn't care and doesn't do the proper due diligence and just hires the company that, well, I don't know, they came up online and they were first online, so I don't know, I guess I figured they were pretty good. But deep down, I believe it's going to be a bad experience. There's a strong chance that it will be a bad experience because you haven't done the necessary due diligence. You haven't taken the necessary action to create the experience that you have visualized. And this is where a lot of people get frustrated with these metaphysical concepts. They go, well, I visualized it, so why doesn't it happen? It doesn't happen because metaphysics also incorporates the physical. You have to not only create in mind the experience you want, you see it and you let it absorb into your emotional body, meaning you really believe it, you almost feel it. I mean, you can feel it when you're meditating, that this is how it's going to go. And then you go about with great diligence and attention to detail, choosing the people and choosing the agenda and essentially guiding the process by your love and by your persistence and by your attention. So once again, we don't create some mysterious moving company that just shows up and does everything perfectly. We are operating within the existing reality. But we believe that there is a company out there that is going to do the job, and they're going to do the job really well at a fair price without damaging my stuff. And in the event that there is something damaged, there is insurance and it will all run out smoothly. And I can tell you that's true. That there are contractors who have that integrity and who have that desire to do really good work. How are you going to find them? Well, you begin by programming yourself, by believing in the possibility. And then you diligently follow the process through. As it turned out, in my case, I rented a truck from Penske, and my vision was, I mean, they work with Home Depot, so you go to Home Depot and, you make the reservation, you pick up the truck, they inspect it and all that, and you drive and you do the work, and you have the truck for a certain number of days, you unload the truck, then you drop it off at a Home Depot in the new city, and you're done. And that was how I visualized it. I saw it in my mind, and I called up Penske and I got the quote, and I got a couple other quotes. And actually I got the quote for the Cube, and I got the quote for the long distance mover, and I got the quote from Budget Rent-A-Car, U-Haul. And I did all that research because I wanted to be informed. And I like the Penske trucks, and I like the fact that they're at Home Depot, and I've had good experiences. And that's exactly what happened. I showed up on time. First of all, I made sure the reservation. I confirmed it a few days in advance. I actually had to change the reservation, and I made sure that was diligently done. And I showed up at the Home Depot, and I was the only guy at the counter, and he was really relaxed. And we walked outside, and we inspected the truck, and it was clean, and I pulled away, and basically everything went off smoothly. There were no problems. At the end of the moving job, everything was unloaded in my house. I cleaned up the truck, I folded up the blankets, I drove it to the Home Depot, and actually I was in a real rush, and I said to the woman, the truck is fine, I think this is the final price, is it okay if I just leave you the keys? If there's any problem, give me a call. And she said, yeah, it was fine. She wasn't stressed out, she knew where the truck was, and literally, I was at Home Depot in the drop-off after driving the truck 15 hours from Chicago all the way down to Charleston. I dropped off the truck and I was at the Home Depot no more than 7 minutes. I caught an Uber to my next destination. So it is very possible to have smooth experiences, but you have to show up fully engaged, and you can't assume that you're going to transcend reality. You are going to align with the best aspects of reality, and you're going to respect reality. You're not going to show up at, I wasn't going to show up at Home Depot and demand and just drop the keys and go, it's all on you. I'm going to courteously request, it would be okay if I did this. I have folded the blankets, I counted the blankets, I explained everything, I provided my receipt, and I said, is it okay if I leave? So when you're interacting with people who are going to be part of you helping you manifest whatever chunk of your ideal life, you have to respect people. Because you need people to be cooperative. You need people to be helpful to you. And if they find you arrogant or impatient or entitled, they're probably going to resist on some level because people don't like to be pushed around. And that is reality, right? We don't create dreamlike reality where everywhere you go they roll out the red carpet for you. So to conclude this video, when you begin your plan to manifest and live your ideal life, starting at the D for desire, find out what you want. And even if you just, I know there's one thing that I want. Like for me, I wanted to move to another city. And what was I going to do when I got to my new city? Well, there's many visions along the way, but you take one step and you meditate and you see it clearly. And you cultivate this enthusiastic expectation of a positive experience, and you get excited about it, and you feel that tingling anticipation of like, oh my God, it'll be so cool when this manifests. And now you have this energetic creation that exists only on the metaphysical realm, on the realm of mind, and it has not yet become material reality. In order for it to become material reality, we have to respect existing reality, work within existing reality, and create that end result. And if you are prepared to deal with the various, obstacles and the delays and the frustrations of sometimes how people are when you really see something clearly and they're not willing to go with it. I mean, all of that is part of being alive on the earth and manifesting this life that's really engaging to you and really captivating. You have to be prepared to maneuver within existing reality. But you don't have to accept what many people think is reality, this Murphy's Law idea that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. That is not reality. That may be certain people's reality because they've had that experience. But I do not experience life that whatever can go wrong will go wrong. And I refuse to accept that as reality. Reality is what it is. And our job is to recognize that and learn to maneuver smoothly within it in order that which we have visualized becomes our reality and thus our ideal life. So, let's do it.